with the permission of our sister principal, I start the event. Thank you, sister. Honorable Principal, Nirmala College, Ranchi, Dr. Sister Kirti, respected Principal, Loreto College, Kolkata, Sister Christine Cottonhoe, Principal, Salesian College, Sonata, Reverend Father, Dr. George Thadatil, Principal, Little Flower Degree and PG College, Ubbal, Reverend Brother, Dr. Vincent Reddy, our esteemed resource person, Dr. Kirti Avishek, Associate Professor, Birla Institute of Technology, Mesra, faculty members, and dear students, a warm good morning and hearty welcome to this August gathering. Our present situation points to human causes of environmental degradation leading to cracks in the planet we inhabit. In Bible, Genesis chapter 2 verses 15 asks us to till and keep the garden of world, meaning to cultivate, to plow it, and finally caring, protecting, and preserving it. This implies a relationship, a mutual responsibility between human being and nature. In Sanskrit also, it says, Jiveshu karuna chapi matri teshu vidhiyatam. That is, be compassionate and friendly to all living beings. Today's interactive session will guide us to understand the climatic changes and need of adoption of sustainable development for Indian subcontinent under the topic climate change and environmental sustainability in Indian context. As we begin the day's program, may I request our dynamic principal, Dr. Sister Kirti, to address us and also to ask God blessings for us for this fruitful session. Sister, please.
Our esteemed resource person of the day, Dr. Kirti Avishek, Associate Professor, Department of Environment Engineering, BIT Mesra. Organizers, Dr. Rani Seraphim, Dr. Anjali, Dr. Srirupa, Mrs. Prachi, Sister Suman, all dear participants from Nirmala College, Ranchi, Salesian College, Sonada, Loreto College, Kolkata, Little Flower College, Hyderabad, and Nagindas College, Mumbai. A very warm good morning to you all and God's blessings of the day. It's indeed a great initiative taken by Xavier Board of Higher Education in India for academic networking and collaboration. Today's initiative and the great event is one among them to connect 5 institutions in one platform. Some of you are connected offline and others online. This gives me an immense joy and an immense feeling to connect so many higher educational institutions through this platform. Let's thank God and spend a few moments and seek His blessings. Thank Him for this opportunity to be connected with a large number, that is 5 higher educational institutions. Maybe some are connected, some may be connecting little later. I also take this great opportunity to congratulate and give my regards to our organizers, that is Dr. M. Rani, Dr. Anjali, Dr. Srirupa, Prachi, and Sister Suman. A great initiative indeed. There is no doubt that the true essence of education lies in developing the human resource of a country into a strong workforce that helps to empower and strengthen a nation. Hence, we are the catalyst that nurture and synthesize that thought process of our youth and orient their minds to understand the importance of all the virtues bestowed on us. All of you would agree with me that nature around is our asset that fulfills our needs and desires. But the devastating effects of anthropogenic activities is taking a toll on the climate and ecosystem. As we know that man is a part of nature and not the nature himself. The curse of nature seems soundless during its arrival, but the repercussion is ruthless. Whether it's the famine or the flood or the earthquake or the landslides, all of these havocs narrate the story of consequences of acute climatic shifts on the ecosystem. We need to contemplate over the reason of such climatic pressure that changes harmony to melancholy. The farmer's suicide, that displacement of habitat as a result of flood or earthquake, etc., needs to be taken care. We aspire to provide innovative concepts and ideas to understand climatic change and environmental sustainability in Indian context, the topic of the today. And we have with us Dr. Kirti Avishek to enlighten us with his expertise. I wish and hope that this initiative will certainly help you all to become more sensitive and accountable towards building up a healthy ecosystem so as to restrain abnormal climatic change to deplete our resources and livelihood. Wishing you all the best for a wonderful lecture series. May God bless us all. Thank you.
Thank you, sister, for your beautiful words and blessings. We have with us Dr. Kirti Avishek, Associate Professor from the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, PIT Mesra. Sir, with 15 years of research experience in the areas as wetland and forest ecosystem, landscape ecology, phytoremediation, and climate study, you become the most suitable person for today's interactive session. Sir, with your knowledge and work, you have won Young International Scientist Award, Indo-Global Excellence Award, and several research fellowships. There are many research publications under your belt in national and international journals. Besides that, I will say you are a committed man that even having a sore throat, you have joined us today. Thank you for that, sir. And I request you to share your knowledge and ideas with us. So over to Dr. Kirti Avishek. Sir, you may begin. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Emma. A very good morning to Sister Jyoti, Principal Nirmala College, all the organizers of the event, and my dear students who are present in the sessions. A very warm welcome, and I hope my lecture will be audible to you, although I'm having a bit of sore throat, so kindly bear with me. I may not be able to speak very loudly, but I hope I'm audible to all of you.
Perfectly audible to us. You have a nice voice. You keep that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So I'll be sharing my screen now. Can you enable my screen sharing option?
Yes, sir, 1 minute. So you can share now.
Okay, I hope my screen is visible to all of you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, as Sister Jyoti also commented on the basic theme of the lecture series, which is on environmental sustainability in Indian context. And if you see, we have n number of episodes which are occurring globally and in India, which is visible, like all the way from earthquakes to cyclonic events to landslides to avalanches to mudslides. So n number of events are going on, and even apart from these natural disasters, we are forced by farmer suicides linked with droughts. So n number of factors are there, which is having a lot of question mark on what is the environmental sustainability. And as we all are knowing that we are living in an era which is known as an Anthropocene era. So Anthropocene era is basically when man is dominating over the ecosystems and trying to modify and use the resources according to its need. So I think a very apt topic being taken up by Nirmala College and its teams. I congratulate them for this. And I hope with my small lecture series that I'm sharing today, maybe it should be a method of exchange of information. And in case there are certain aspects which the speakers or the participants would like to give me, and that would also be welcomed. So I will start with the slides now. Way back in Stockholm, we had the first environmental conference. And after Stockholm Convention in 1972, it was way back in 1992 that we had our second largest summit of environment and human development on Rio, which is also known as the Rio Summit. And it also states it has 27 principles basically. So among the 27 principles that has been given in the Rio declarations, the first principle is very justifiable, because like what is said is human beings are at the center of concern for sustainable development, and they are entitled to a healthy and productive life in harmony with nature. So basically, the whole concern is that we may be talking about protecting our ecosystems, we may be talking about protecting our forests, our water resources, our species, but the end result is we all are interlinked with each other, and hence, when we say to protect these resources, we are directly or indirectly talking about our own self needs, which needs to be protected. And hence, human beings are the center of concern for sustainable development. These resources are utilized by us. These resources are extracted and exploited by us. And hence, it is we who have to be protected. So for the protection and the survival of human beings, these resources should be available to us. And that's a very apt principle. And if you have gone through your declarations, there are 27 different principles which talk about the different aspects of sustainability, all the way from women empowerment, youth ideas, indigenous people and their role in sustainability, poverty eradication. So n number of topics are dealt over the protection of resources. So it's very well said that by Rachel Carson that in nature nothing exists alone. So a very good statement made by him. And it's one of the diagrams figures that I'm showing over here. You are seeing a bee which is having, which is undergoing a process of pollination, and it is having the nectar with it, and the pollination will be going from one tree to another tree. And this is how we are linked, how the fruits are then germinating, and then we are consuming those fruits. So everything is in nature. Everything in nature does not exist alone. This is a very old definition of sustainable development, and I'm sure most of you are aware of what is sustainable development. It is basically that the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. So a very well-conceived idea of sustainability, that we need to use our resources in such a manner that the future generations should have the availability of such resources. For example, if I talk about water resources, the per capita availability of water resources, which my grandparents must have witnessed, should be available to my grandchildren. But this per capita availability is declining, and hence our sustainability initiatives are at stake. So we really need to understand how we need to manage these issues of sustainability. And we have been thinking about this and talking about it. And Earth Charter has already given a very important statement that we stand at a...
To interrupt you, Dr. Avishek.
Yep.
You are not audible, actually.
I'm not audible.
No, sir.
Am I audible now? Am I audible now?
Yes, sir. May I request our Loreto College, participants of Loreto College, are you able to hear the speaker? Can anybody respond?
Yes, sir, we can hear you now.
Is the volume okay? We just got a message in the chat box that the volume is very low.
Yes, sir, you're audible now.
Okay.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Fine.
Thank you, sir.
So I was discussing about sustainable development, and sustainable development is basically the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own. So this is a very apt definition, and we need to use our resources in such a manner that our future generation or our grandkids could also use the same resources in the same proportions. We stand at a very critical moment in Earth history, a time when humanity must choose its future. Whatever we do, whether academically or research or financially or in the sense of properties, we always tend to create resources so that our future generations are having those facilities to utilize them. Now, at this junction of point when environment is degrading, land is degrading, we have to think very rationally about how to use such resources so that the future and the humanity which is at stake should not be under pressure of utilizing the resources. And why do I make this statement is because there are several species which have gone extinct. For example, the passenger pigeons, which were last seen in 1901, the western black rhinos from Africa, which were last seen in 2011, and the dodo bird, which was found in Mauritius, has been extinct since 1681. So these are some very common examples of how species are getting extinct because of habitat change, because of different degradation of the ecosystems. But when I give this example, it's not necessary that India is quite safe, and these episodes have occurred at a global level. India is critically important because it has n number of species and biodiversity hotspots, and these biodiversities are getting reduced day by day. For example, if you see the first figure over here, which is Hangul. Hangul is a species of a deer which is found in Jammu and Kashmir, and their number has declined to 182, this was reported by the Center for Science and Environment in 2018. And then you have the Great Indian Bustard, which is from the Deccan Plateau, and only 150 numbers of such species is remaining. You have the Shanghai, which is found in the northeastern regions of India, and only 200 species are now, a number of species are now remaining. And you have the dugong, which is a species of what do you call it, dolphin, and it is found in the Gulf of Kutch in Mannar, and even it has reduced its number of count. So that is around 200 number of count available. So looking at the global picture and the Indian scenarios, we have to think about how the species are getting extinct. And if these species are getting extinct or reduced in number, this will actually affect the pyramid of energy, the pyramid of biomass, the pyramid of numbers, and hence in totality, the availability of resources from producers to consumers to decomposers, everything will vary. And hence there will be a disturbance in the ecosystems. And thus we need to again think very critically why India has higher risk to higher risk to climate change, and why sustainability is a major challenge for India. So let us have some insight of what are the existing conditions or what we are basically facing now in India. We have been witnessing unsustainable lifestyles and the patterns of production and consumptions, where there is an irrational distribution of resources from richer to the poorer. Population is increasing. Population size for the poorer is higher than the population size of the richer. So resources are gradually shrinking. The availability of the resources, their wastage, everything has been a major cause of concern. And as we move forward, there are resources like the pollinators, natural pollinators, which is actually affecting the food security, because these are the pollinators who move from one species to another, drop their pollinations, and which help in germination. So all these pollinators are also declining. And with increase in population, our water is getting degraded, our quality of life is getting affected. India in itself has a very shortage of land because its population density is quite high. So with all these aspects, we have to think and act adequately. We have 1/6 of the world's people, and it has the densest population, a major concern which needs to be addressed. And we are a country full of diversity, and we also have a country which is full of contradictions. And the per capita emissions of India are amongst the lowest in the world, but it is also the third biggest generators of emission. Just because of the population size, our per capita emission is low, but we are, as an emitters, we are the third biggest generators of emissions. So these are the concerns which have to be followed. And as I discussed in earlier slides, that India is witnessing population growth, it is witnessing urban development, industrialization, and hence the resources that is available to us will be at stake. So how much and where to get it controlled? What are the mechanisms through which our policies are trying to address sustainability? I think I will try to give you a small picture of everything in my presentation. What are the environmental issues in India? We have n number of issues, no doubt, because in India we have we all are independent speakers. So contradictions for every viewpoint is there. We are free to give our opinions. But some of the major environmental issues which has come up or has seen or has been witnessed in India are the degrading air quality index, for example, in Delhi, which is more prone to smog during winters, and apart from the winter season, also the air quality index of Delhi is not very good. If you see the time scale or the index scales between 0 to 500, with 500 being extremely polluted and an unhealthy air condition, and 0 to 50 is considered as a good condition. So such kind of studies are being conducted for n number of various big cities. However, small cities like Ranchi has still not witnessed such kind of a classification where we can witness our daily air quality standards, and we may assume that be living in a small city, we may not be having such kind of an air quality index. But even then, I'm sure that our index will vary somewhere between the moderate to poor. It will never be in a good condition. So some important questions to be raised: why bigger cities have all the amenities and small cities still needs to develop our capacities to empower with electrifications and n number of problems. Then you have rampant environmental degradation, which is going on. We have witnessed it, and there's nothing new about it to be said. All of you are individuals and human beings quite aware and connected with your environment. So we all are aware of the water resources getting degraded, the soil getting degraded, the excess use of fertilizer resulting in soil degradation, their phytoremediation of water treatment. Everything is a major concern over here. Loss of biodiversity, because we have the entire Deccan Plateau, we have the entire Himalayan range where you have n number of species, and these are the biodiversity hotspots of India. And the concern of declining biodiversity is also a major question. Urbanization in the Himalayas. This may be a bit different, but as we say, the third pole is known as the Himalayas, or the Everest region. The third pole, we know about the North Pole, the South Pole, but the third pole is the Mount Everest region, and Himalaya is also a range in the ecosystem, and population growth is being witnessed in the Himalayan region. As a result, you have degradation of the mountain ecosystems, and there is a trail of events resulting in deforestation for expansion of roads, which may result in landslides. You have waste being accumulated at tourist spots. So such kinds of events are basically occurring almost in all the spaces across Himalayas. And then we also have the loss of resilience in the ecosystems. This is why, because we have fragile ecosystems like the grassland ecosystems or the freshwater ecosystem, which are more fragile to damage, and hence we need to protect them. But our focus or research area has primarily been limited to forest ecosystems and surface water bodies. So some fragile ecosystems like grasslands have to be addressed properly. Although we have some researchers going on in grasslands in Rajasthan, on not Rajasthan, Gujarat, on bunny grasslands, and in Chhattisgarh, Rhonda grasslands. So such research is going on, and recently some policies have also been framed for maintaining the grasslands, because they are one of the largest carbon sequesters. So considering the amount of carbon that the grasslands can store, all these fragile ecosystems have to be managed. Then we have a lack of waste management system. Even bigger and developed cities of India, like Delhi and Bombay, are having lack of waste management systems. And scientifically, we still don't have a very good landfill system in any of the major metropolitan city. Landfill or waste dumping, open dumping, is the most prominent method of the waste disposal. Although I have seen some spots in Kolkata where you have transfer stations located, which is good for collecting and segregation of the waste. But I'm not very well aware about other cities like in Bombay or Delhi, how many transfer stations are located. We have witnessed the land and water resource depletion and also water scarcity, because apart from quality, the quantity is also a major concern. So water is getting affected both qualitatively and quantitatively. So surface water quality and quantity degradation, groundwater quality and quantity degradation. So n number of environmental issues which are observed in India. And we may say that the situation sounds grim, but it's not actually so grim. We have certain initiatives all the way from our independence time where sustainabilities were at stake, and all the way from the green revolution to the white revolution to n number of schemes that have come up from different governments of government handling the country have given us a opportunity to grow. For example, nowadays we all are aware about the Swachh Bharat mission, the Green Skill Development Mission, the Namami Gange program, the Compensatory Afforestation Fund Act, the National Mission for Green India, the National River Conservation Program, the conservation of the natural resources and ecosystems. So in totality, we have a good policy series which are linked with sustainability. So I'll be dealing with them in the next few slides of how sustainable developmental goals are addressed with our policies. One of the most critical situation which exists in India is we, compared to other countries, are still very connected to our roots, and we are still very connected to our environment. So we have a good reason to think over how these ecosystems function and what could be the impacts if these ecosystems are basically damaged. Those who are from Orissa may be aware of the cyclones which devastated way back in 1994. And you had a mangrove ecosystem across the coastal region of Orissa. And these mangrove ecosystems were damaged and degraded or deforested. As a result, the cyclonic effects were much more severe in the Orissa coastal region. Basically, what is happening over here is the mangrove ecosystems has a intertwined root system. All the roots are in a web form. Now, these webs basically control the speed of the cyclone by which they are hitting the ground surface. Now, when the mangroves were removed, the cyclonic effects were, or the speed at which the cyclone was hitting a specific area was much more higher. So this is how why we need to protect our ecosystems. So if we protect our ecosystem, most of the disasters could be prevented. Secondly, for sustainability, food is an important resource, and India having a huge coastal line, our fishery sector is very strong, and some of the fishes like even Ilish, which is very popular in Kolkata. Now, these species are basically dependent upon the mangrove ecosystem for laying of their eggs and spawning over there, and and thus uh, and thus they will be having an effect if the mangroves are removed from the ecosystems. And hence this is a complete linkage between what the mangrove ecosystems are, how the human populations are dependent on the fishery sectors, and how the natural disasters can be prevented if we are able to just maintain one specific mangroves. What are the different species and what are the roles towards the sustainability? Basically, the species role towards sustainability is each one of us are related with each other. Each species is related to each other. And for example, if you look over here, we are quite aware about the bees, bees and their pollination habits. And it is also predicted that the day bees go extinct from our ecosystems, after that, the population of human beings will not be surviving for more than a decade or something. So that predictions are being made by IPCC. We also have the tigers, which are preying on different deers or the herbivores. So they are basically creating a balance in an ecosystem or our ecological pyramids. So every species play a role in sustainability. If the species of herbivores increase, so then our grassland ecosystems are degraded, our shrub ecosystems are degraded. And hence to maintain that, we need to have species which prey on the herbivores. Elephants, for example, they use tusk to dig for water and thus provide water to other animals. Now, the other animals which are not capable of digging the mud or the soil will not be able to have water, whereas elephants use their tusk for digging the water. When the forest elephants they eat, they also create a gap in the vegetation, and these gaps allow the new plants to grow, because the elephants, when they are pulling a grassland or a specific food from the land, uh, from the land, they will be uh, affected by pulling the grass, entire grasses, and hence there will be a void. And in that void, you have certain species that can grow up. Now, the dung of the elephant is also a storehouse of different seeds, because and when these seeds pollinate, so you have different species coming across the one specific region. So all the way from supply of water to other species, to creating a gap in the vegetation system, to fulfilling the dung and sowing of grasses using the seed methods. So they also play as a good pollinators. My next slide is focusing upon the ecosystem services of a tree. I'm sure all of you are aware of the ecosystem services. Basically, ecosystem services are the services which are provided by any species or any ecosystem to human beings, and what are the functions that it is playing. So you have provisional services, you have regulatory services, you have aesthetic services. For example, a tree plays a major role in sustainability, and they are very close to the Indian context, because we have been worshipping trees in multiple occasions. We have a habit of protecting trees also, which is the nature of basic nature of Indians. And over here, over here, when the trees are grown, so you have the regulatory services, like you have photosynthesis, so the amount of carbon dioxide it can take in and the oxygen that can be delivered back, so it has a cooling effect. The root zone has a soil binding effect, so it reduces the erosion potentials. Now transpiration and water recharges are also affected by the root zones, so the infiltration capacities, they also are home to various bird species. So when you have n number of bird species, so they are home to such forest ecosystems. And aesthetically, one feels a sense of calmness when you sit at the bottom of the trunk and enjoy the aesthetic values given by the tree forest ecosystems. They are also places of meditations. They are also places of yoga. So various cycles or various benefits are being provided by the ecosystem of trees at large. Now, when these species are planted on rooftops, so they also help in reduction of the urban heat island effects. The cooling of the towers can be observed, so which is also known as vertical gardening or the rooftop gardening. So all these are the benefits which can be extracted of one species, and we have n number of species which can be used for multiple purposes. For example, all of you must have seen the water hyacinth. Water hyacinth is an aquatic plant species, which is also known as jalkumbi in Hindi, and which is also observed across various water bodies, where you have seen the growth of such water hyacinths, or across the lake ecosystems. So these are very useful for treatment of wastewater. So any kind of wastewater which is coming from the domestic sources, so water hyacinth is also having the ability to remove the pollutants from the wastewater. So we have many natural resources which are available with us and which can be utilized for their services. One important aspect apart from the natural which we have dealt, we discussed about the forest ecosystems, but apart from that, we also have the waste management scenarios, which is a very critical question for sustainability in India, because we have a collapsing system of waste management, and hence to manage these resources or the waste coming out of the houses, we have to focus upon solid waste management. Critical condition, because although we have the 3R concept, we have the concept of segregation, use of multiple techniques like pyrolysis, incineration, biological transformation, but yet their implementation is still not very stringent. So all the way from waste collection to waste minimization, reuse, recycle, energy recoveries and disposal, everything is at a big question mark for India. And in this context, if you see the most least sustainable least sustainable method is our disposal methods, where we go for open dumping, and the scientific method of landfilling is still missing in the country, and still missing in the country, and we need to understand the focus of how to manage our wastes now when we have a pile of waste being dumped across the country. And a new concept which is also known as landfill mining has now come up, and to reduce the open dumping, because since most of the cities have witnessed open dumping, and we have a space in the cities where these dumps are observed, and now you have waste segregators who are going and collecting the waste from such locations and utilizing them or reusing them or recycling them. So landfill mining is a concept of sustainability, where such kind of technical or the scientific method of disposal is yet not observed. I think this is a very common scenario of almost most of the cities across the country. These are pictures of Ranchi city, where you have some gaps of waste management, where the bin locations are not suitable enough, or the bin sizes are not having the capacity to hold the waste from that specific location. So we have to increase the number of bins at certain locations. We have to place bins at certain locations. We have to increase the number of vehicles for collecting of waste, and so that they can be carried in an aesthetic manner, not in the manner like being overloaded by waste. So we need to have all these aspects when we are dealing with sustainability. And this study we had carried out for Ranchi city, and we have given our reports to the Ranchi Municipal Corporation also, where we have identified the loopholes and gaps in waste management, and they have started implementing that work. We had identified certain locations where the number of bins needed to be increased, including collection routes. So those studies are there. This is a site of land open dumping in Ranchi, and I'm sure such kind of sites will be there in most of the countries, in most of the South Asian countries also, and primarily in India you will have such heaps of waste being dumped. And if you see in the bottom image, you also have leachates being formed. Leachates are basically due to degradation of waste in the open environment, you have a liquid getting discharged. Now this liquid has high contaminations of heavy metals, which may result in the contamination of the groundwater tables or the surface water bodies. So we need to manage these leachates or the open dumps. And as I already told that landfill mining is basically a technique of segregation or removal of useful material from a dump site and then going for recycling process. So that's the whole concept of landfill mining. What is the current scenario for different cities has been shown in this slide for waste management. We have Maharashtra, which is having the higher highest tons per day of waste generation. And among the countries, you have the United States, which have higher concentration, higher volumes of waste being generated. Although if you see kind of states like Bihar and Jharkhand, their values are quite low. But and even in India, compared to the other Western countries, we have the values which is very low. But our issue of sustainability deals with basically the management techniques. If you look at our policies, which has been given by Ministry of Urban Development, it has given a very clear instruction of segregation of waste from our households. Things have improved and have changed with time. I think from last 10 years, initially the waste were being dumped in one single dustbins, but now if you see, every household is having two dustbins, one green color, one is blue color. And in some of the academic premises and offices, we also have a black dustbin for hazardous waste. So such concepts and awareness is increasing, but we have to buckle up and do our work a bit more faster, so that the after effects of these waste management strategies can be attained. And although we have segregation of waste at domestic level, it may happen that most of you will be seeing or witnessing that these wastes are finally getting transferred into one bin when a rickshaw puller or the mechanized puller is coming to collect your waste. So these are the issues of sustainability which we need to address. So this awareness and handling of waste is a major challenge. Once the wastes are segregated, then they can be sent for either composting, or they can be sent for pyrolysis or incineration for energy recovery or metal recovery. But the primary issue or the challenge which we are facing is the segregation. And one and the only solution is awareness. Awareness and the process of handling of the such waste. So that's the only mechanism. No one can come and force us to segregate the waste. It should be in our practice to segregate the waste when we are throwing it in our dustbins. And similarly, the people who are coming and picking the waste, those have to be trained of how the collected waste should be segregated or kept separately. So these are some of the points which needs to be addressed whenever we are talking about sustainability. So I already dealt with these topics, which is segregation, site suitability, transfer stations, route optimization, and landfill mining. We have discussed about segregation, where we talked about the segregation of waste and separation of waste, so that their utility and usability can be defined, and whether it will be going for a compost or it will go for energy recovery, that can be identified. Next option is point is the site suitability. We have various criteria for identifying the sites which are suitable for landfilling. Now, among these sites, you have multiple criteria, like they have to have 500 meters away from urban development area. They have to be around 10 kilometers away from airports, around 5 kilometers away from roadways. They have to be at least 10 meters above the groundwater table. So all these criteria have been given by the Pollution Control Board, and keeping those in mind and using different applications, or you can use MATLAB, or you can use ArcGIS platforms, or different modeling techniques to identify the sites which is more suitable. Now, soil criteria is also very essential when you're going for site suitability, because for instance, a soil which is more permeable, which may result in more contamination of the soil, whereas soil which are less permeable will have the holding capacities of the leachates. Although in practice, whenever we are going for landfilling or the technical side, we have to place a liner system, which is basically a PVC material at the bottom, and then place our waste on it, so that any kind of liquid getting discharged because of degradation of waste does not contaminate our soil or our water bodies. But due to lack of funding, due to lack of trained manpowers, due to lack of a connectivity to protect the soil, we generally tend to dump it at an open place. So there are multiple criteria which needs to be followed. Initially, there used to be only one site from where the waste was being dumped, but then the concepts of transfer stations were generated. And these transfer stations are basically small pockets or storehouses at multiple locations across the city. So from every small junction or a colony, the waste is being collected and then transferred to the transfer stations. And now the transfer stations are the point at where these wastes are getting segregated. So the usability potential of the wastes are now being identified at the transfer stations, and those which are not to be used or which are inert in material basically go for dumping in a landfill site. So the criteria is only inert material, those which cannot be, for example, broken bricks or old construction demolition waste. These are all inert material which can go as a landfill site. But apart from that, everything can be reused. For example, food waste can go for composting, metallic waste can go for metal recovery. Those which can be pyrolyted or incinerated can go for energy recovery. So we have multiple options which can be used for usability. One another option is route optimization, because at times at what duration the vehicle should move after collecting the waste is also important. By which routes they are moving is also important, because if the route is longer, then the emissions will be increasing, because we have an emission factor for the diesel being consumed. So per liter of diesel, how what based on the emission factors, so the pollution will be increasing. The shorter the distance, better is the better route optimizations can be observed. So when it comes for the general observations, what we have observed is we have an awareness on sanitation as Swachh Bharat mission is very high. This was basically a small survey that we had conducted in Jharkhand across multiple villages. We had taken 64 villages and for knowing whether they are aware of sanitation and Swachh Bharat mission, and they were knowing about the Swachh Bharat mission. So that awareness is very high. Effects on poor sanitation on health is also known. Plastic and paper waste are a major constituents which needs to be segregated and used accordingly. Food waste can be used for animal feedings, and which was a recommendation given by the rural people, where their waste is not, their food waste is basically not contaminated or mixed with plastics and papers. So they said that their such kind of pure food waste can be actually used for animal feeding. Then based on the economic status, that is above poverty line or below poverty line, basically that had no relationship with the sanitation status. It's all about the mental acceptability. So the economic status was not relevant or was not prominent enough to correlate with anything of sanitation. Behavior change is required and has to be effectively implemented at multiple levels of stakeholders, whether it be domestic stakeholders or the person who is picking pickers or rack pickers or a industry waste managers. So behavioral changes is a key for any success. Some of the recommendations that were made from public consultations for waste management was that drains of the runoff water and grey water to be managed, soak pits to be developed at household levels to manage the grey water, because initially every household used to have soak pits, and with advent of civilization, we started having drainage patterns, and based on drainage patterns, one point of collection. Then we had a city-based drainage pipelines. So all those were developed, but the public consultation, which I observed in the rural areas, where they were happy to manage that water at their household level. They said the drains will not be required because the drains will be filled with some other waste. So it's better to go for individual household grey water management sanitation systems. This could be implemented only at village level, but maybe not be very feasible at city levels, because we don't have space to have a soak pits at each houses. Now we have an apartment system, so we have a different techniques of managing our solid and liquid wastes. One answer to sustainability is ecosystem management, because when we have gone through different statements of Rachel or UNEP or IIST, everyone is saying that there is a linkage of different ecosystems with human beings, and we are associated with each other. And thus, ecosystem management is an answer towards sustainability, where we as a user of resources are responsible for managing our ecosystems. So every ecosystem and its users should be handling or having the capacity to use it. In the initial beginning of my slides, I had discussed about the sustainable developmental goals. So we have around 17 sustainable developmental goals. And what are the initiatives taken by Indian government? I'm going to discuss them over here. For example, eradicating poverty, which is an important indicator of sustainability. So we have integrated rural development program, which aims to employ the poor people. Their rate may be low. Eradicating poverty is also linked with the per day income of a person, which was initially $1 per day, which has now been increased to $1.9 per day. And if you see the linkages of how our manpower has been utilized is also linked with poverty. For example, our daily wage persons who are looking for work, now they are being paid around 400 to 800 rupees per day. So these are indicators of what are the strategies and how the poverty line has to be diluted gradually. With reference to hunger, we have the zero hunger program, we have the midday meal schemes, which are basically addressing the nutrition, health, and hunger among the poor people. Then we have the good health. For good health, you have the National Health Mission, where the entire objective is to improve our healthcare systems across the country, and with special focus on the rural areas. We have the Vidyanjali Yojana, which is focused on the quality education, where it is suggested that the private sector, the schools of the private sectors, should guide the government schools and improve their quality of education. For gender equality, we have Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao Yojanas, where we have the girl child being promoted for improved education system, which will result in gender equality in the future terms. For clean water and sanitation, we have the Jal Jeevan mission and the Swachh Bharat mission, which are linked for managing our resources, for cleaning and keeping the systems clean, for treating the water, for having a household tap connections. So all these missions are provided. Then we have the affordable and clean energy systems, where we have the solar mission, and we have the Swachh Indhan Behtar Jeevan mission, where by 2023, around 8 crores LPG connections were provided to the needy people. Then we have the Atmanirbhar Bharat, addressing the decent growth and economic economic sustainability. So basically, it aims to make the country independent and self-reliant to enhance the economy. So if we go for economic development, then we have an Atmanirbhar Bharat. We have a Make in India concept for industry innovation and infrastructure. And I think most of the colleges are now undergoing or having a cell of entrepreneurship. Like we also have a cell in India, which is known as the entrepreneurship cell. And these entrepreneurship cells are basically giving a seed money to the students who are interested for having their own setups of for any kind of a business or any kind of entrepreneurial startup they want to have. So such kind of initiatives have been made with financial fundings. Reducing the inequality is basically through Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana, where loans of up to 10 lakhs are being provided. And we also have to reduce inequalities. We have the Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao Yojanas. Most of the schemes that we are discussing now, or that has been developed with time since independence. For example, I was talking about the white revolution, which talked about the milk revolution. So these were all linked with sustainability. The green revolution with food security, with the milk revolution with again food and health security. So since independence, we have n number of policies which have been developed for reducing inequalities, for improving the sustainable level developments. Next, we have the sustainable cities, where we have the Swachh Bharat mission or the smart city mission, where around 100 smart cities have been identified in India, and supports are being provided to develop these smart cities in an eco-friendly manner, more energy resilient methods and solar-based energy methods, eco-friendly methods. So various schemes have been initiated. We have the Sampada scheme for responsible consumption and production. We have the National Action for Climate Change, which is a very old scheme, which is working on the climate change pattern, adaptation, mitigation. And we have the Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change, which is working in the direction of National Action Plan and addressing all the major issues across the world, giving the reports of Indian statistics. Then we have the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana, which is for life below water. So for protecting our resources below water, like fisheries or mangroves, we have different yojanas. Specifically for fishes, we have the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana. For mangrove, you have the mangrove ecosystem, which is across initiated by the United Nations, and IUCN is working on it, and all across the Indian border, then across Pakistan, Bangladesh, then in the I think Malaysia, Philippines, those area also, IUCN is working for protecting the mangroves. Then we have the life on land, which is on the National Afforestation Program. You have the tiger projects, you have the elephant projects, you have the vulture projects. So life on land has multiple schemes which are protecting the resources. Peace and justice is incorporated in most of the schemes where India is against war, any kind of war with any specific region or a country, and they will only defend when other countries tries to invade us. So such policies are there in place. And for partnership, we have the India Infrastructure Finance Company, which provides a long-term financial systems for infrastructural projects. And we also have the technology transfer programs, where Germany and India through DAD programs are exchanging their technologies. Japan and India are exchanging their technologies or accepting technologies from different countries. So different partnerships can be observed at global levels. So these were the 17 sustainable developmental goals, and how India is trying to tackle these specific points. Although we have n number of policies, and India is one of the best in making the policies, but implementation and achievement of goals is a major challenge. So some of the major challenges are like, how do we define an indicator? Like how do we assess whether poverty is actually decreasing, hunger is actually being reduced, how safe water is getting available? So their availability and implementation at every level is a major question, and that needs to be understood. Like on pen and paper, if the policies are correct, doesn't mean that they are being implemented adequately at the ground level. So we still have to develop methods of how to demarcate such issues. There's a major problems which we face at state levels, the financial crisis which we are following, or the shortfall of fundings, which is a major problem. Then we have monitoring and ownerships of who will be owning and monitoring the progress of the entire schemes, who will be having the ownership feeling of implementing those things at ground levels. But we have also our strengths. For example, we have been combating the desertification, and sustainable development goals is there. So we have n number. For example, just recently, India was acknowledged for its commitment for climate change mitigation, and India has given voluntarily a national review of how the SDGs have been implemented and what proportion of achievement has been done. I have yet not gone through the reports, so maybe it's open to all of us to review the files. Technically, we are the least wasteful economy because we waste the least. And we also have a yogic principle of aparigraha, which is the virtue of being not attached to materialistic things. Since from childhood, we have been hearing from our parents, our grandparents, that these are materialistic things, we should not get attached to it. So such kind of yogic principles are basically inculcated within us. And we both have, India has a very strong culture of hoarding. That means accumulating and keeping a thing. It may be used, it may become useful in future. So we keep certain things in our house so that it maybe it will be useful in the future. And we have a habit of thriftiness where we try to reuse, for example, our towels, we cut it down, we use it as a kitchen towel or a duster for our car washing. So such kind of methods of small examples are there. Our green dex, which is a green index, is also very high and is also giving a very good review about Indian context. Green Dex is an index being developed by the National Geographic and GlobeScan, and it is basically scoring based on housing, transport, food, and goods. And India is occupying a top spot on this index and among the 18 contenders. And thus, I think we have certain strengths because we are highly motivated. We have a habit of doing good things. So only method is to channelize those energy into a proper way. So with this, I end my presentation. So thank you so much. I'm open to any questions from your end. I hope I have not taken a lot of time. I was given a time from 11 to 12, but I think it's 12:10 now.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Some questions from my end. Our students would like to have some interaction with you. So,
good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So my name is Prachi Kumari Sahai. I am from UG Political Science Department in Mesra College. And my question is, we discussed so much about our environment and what are the problems and what could be the solutions for the problem. But I have a question about the forest fire. What could be the solution for the large number of forest fires? As we know, it is affecting the lungs of the earth very largely. So what could be the solution for it?
See, basically there are two different causes of forest fire. One is the natural cause and another is the anthropogenic cause. In India, what you're observing is the anthropogenic cause. Like a person having a cigarette or any kind of a burner, when they are disposing such things into a forest line, so the grasses or the dried grasses or leaves catch fire. So that has to be prohibited. So we need to place good place marks or boards or hoardings to stop such kind of activities. Unlike India, in Western countries, you have forest fire, which is caused because of the natural activities. For example, extreme dryness of soil, followed by extreme dryness of the leaf, will result and wind flowing of the wind. So when a friction is occurring between the surface, so then you have a natural forest fires. So those natural forest fires is a bit difficult to control unless and until you have a predictive study of which are the frequent days or years in which forest fires are occurring. Then we can go for sprinkling the moment the soil moisture gets deprived. So we can have a regular monitoring of the soil temperature, the atmospheric temperature, and we can go for sprinkling of water on such areas. But for India, I think the only method is to stop the mankind to enter the forest where the leaves are dry, especially having a cigarette or any smoke or inculcating things.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, sir. My name is Garima Kumar Singh. I'm from Chemistry Honors in the College Ranchi. My question is, what are the methods and initiatives taken to minimize the gaps in waste management?
Initiatives for waste gaps in waste management. Okay. I already discussed that we have a sequence of methods of waste disposal all the way from segregation of the waste. Ministry of Urban Development, they have already issued a manual of how to handle waste at household levels, segregation of waste at household levels, to its collection, transfer stations, disposal, reusability. Everything has been documented. Only thing is we need to now implement those things at each steps. And that can only happen when such initiatives by MoUD has to be circulated across the country. So each household should be aware of how to segregate the waste, manage the waste. And being an Indian, I think most of our mothers are well trained in managing the domestic waste. They have the habit of proportionality. They know how much to cook. So we need to learn those habits from our grandmothers and mothers so that we reduce our waste.
Thank you, sir. One more question. What are the main reasons why the availability and implementation regarding sustainability is not taken a great concern?
No, I think conceptual wise, it's already there. Only issue is our implementation. So I think implementation can only be there when we have a behavioral change, when we can get connected with our ecosystems. And that is also in line, because if you see, environmental science was initially being taught at master's level. Now it has become a mandatory course for generating awareness at all the UG levels. And even now it has become a mandatory course from class 6th onwards. So if you see, this is how gradually the systems will change, how the mentalities will change. If you see your younger generation, they are more aware about the things. Like compared to my generation, you are more aware about environmental issues. Compared to you, your next generations will be more aware about the environmental issues because they are knowing about these things since class 6 onwards, right? So everything is in pipeline. We need to have a system which has been created, but now we have to just implement it gradually.
Thank you, sir, for your thoughtful words.
Thank you.
I would request our guest colleges, if they have any query or question, they can put forward. They can even type their question in the chat box so that sir could answer your queries.
Good morning, sir. I'm Sadia Jamal of BCA department from Nimra College. And my question is that, as you said, that water quality and quantity both are degrading nowadays. So what we can do to save this quality and quantity both?
What is your idea about saving the water quality and quantity?
Sir, about quality, I can say that nowadays that we are dumping waste, and so that the water is getting contaminated and also.
Right. So your idea about water quality safeguard is by not throwing waste into surface water bodies,
Yes,
right?
Yes, sir.
So we have to stop that habit of throwing any kind of a waste into our surface water bodies. First question answered. Groundwater, we need to have rainwater harvesting. We need to stop over exploitation of water. We need to have our tanks or overhead tanks, or jo tanki hum log bolte hain, tanki.
Yes, sir.
So we need to have an alarm system, because you might have seen that people have switched on their motors and the water tank is overflowing. So we need to have an alarm system at each household so that the wastage of water is also reduced. So very small practices have to be implemented.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Ajit Kumari of Nirmala College from BCA department. My question is that how we can save the extincting species?
We cannot directly save the extinct species. Well, the only thing that we can do is the protection of their habitats. For example, if we know that deers require a specific area for movement, specific grasses for eating, specific temperatures for survival, so we can only develop those habitats under which any species can be protected. So once we go for ecosystem management or the concept of development of a complete ecosystem, protection of an ecosystem, species will always be protected.
Thank you, sir.
Now we'll be taking up the last question.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Sonal Priya and I am from Geography Department of Nirmala College. My question is that, according to your graphs, it was shown that more developed countries have the more percentage of waste management. Why does this happen? If we will go like this, it will be more clear that the more close we will go to the technology, the more destruction will be done to environment. So what do you think? How should we balance these both things? It's a debate also.
Well, that's an interesting point, because the thing is, the developed countries generate more waste as compared to the less developed countries. The only reason is when you talk about the less developed countries, we try to utilize every bit of the resource and then throw away the thing. So our consumption patterns are much better as compared to the Western countries or the more developed countries. Okay. So this is only how they have to deal in their consumption pattern to reduce their waste, which we are doing it adequately well. Right? For example, if a richer person, he may not be using the entire portion of food and he may throw it off. But a poor person will use it for the second time or the third time by storing it. Right? Which is not a practice when you go for a richer or the higher economy societies. So this is a class level difference and can only be managed through behavioral change and awareness, nothing else.
Thank you, sir.
I would request the participants from other colleges, if they have any question, they can put up their question. Kindly unmute yourself and put your question. Okay, so this is the time. The time has come, so we are winding up. We hope that today's session was a great learning experience for all of us. We had with us Dr. Kirti Avishek, one of the most renowned persons. Okay, there's a query, sir. I'll just interrupt in between. There's a query from Loreto College. Kindly just put the unmute and just question, say the question.
I think she's typing. Okay. Yes, please.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Trishita Shankar from Loreto College Geography Department. So I have this one question. Can you talk about the medical waste in relation to sustainability? Because the rules of 3 Rs are not applied to medical waste as it cannot be reused. So how can we minimize the medical waste?
Waste minimization at medical scale or the biomedical waste cannot be done because you have the syringes which has to be one use time. So you're not going to reduce the number of waste. Only thing is how we are going to handle them. So handling of biomedical waste is an essential issue. And in India, none of the cities have adequate facility for waste management of biomedical waste categories. So that is a major concern across the country. One of the major technique is incineration, through which the biomedical waste are basically reduced. So incineration and pyro processes are only processes which are dealing with the biomedical waste management. Apart from that, you cannot go for composting, you cannot go for any other process. Only pyrolysis and burning of the waste at a certain temperature has to be done for mitigating the effects of biomedical waste.
Thank you.
Anybody else? From Loreto College or other colleges? I would request once again, if you have a question, please put it up as soon as possible. So thank you, everyone. We had a great day today, and I thank from the core of my heart to our Chief Resource Person, Dr. Kirti Avishek, for giving such a lecture in such a lucid manner. So the kind of deliberations that you presented today has triggered a lot of questions and a lot of sensibility and a lot of accountability in our students. And I hope they will be taking in various matters by which they can sensitize the youth, themselves, and the country and the nation as a whole so that they can bring ecosystem upgradation in the environment. I am really thankful to you for spending your time and giving us a valuable, informative session. I thank our principal for her valuable words that was a preface to the topic. My special thanks to all the esteemed principal, Sister Christine Contino from Loreto College, Kolkata, Brother Vincent Reddy, Little Fra Degree and PG College, Hyderabad, Father George Thadadil, Salesian College, Sonada, and other colleges for your support and cooperation. I extend my gratitude to all the college who have joined as a part of our collaboration for their heartfelt participation. My wholehearted gratitude towards all the faculty members who have joined from different colleges and made this event successful one. We feel honored by your gracious presence. I'm extremely obliged to all our dear students from our college and from all other guest colleges who have been good listeners and have promised to share their part in nature as deliberated by the lecture given by Sir. I thank our coordinator, Dr. Emma ma'am, and our team for organizing the program. And I thank all the people who have helped us in the logistic support. Thank you, everyone. Before ending, I would just make an announcement. There will be a feedback form sent to all of you, and you have to fill the form. And after filling the form, only we can register your attendance. So kindly fill out the feedback form. Tomorrow again, we have a session from 11 to 12, and the resource person will be deliberating on gender equity issues. We'll be seeing you soon tomorrow. Thank you, one and all. And please join on time and to kindly fill up the feedback forms. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, madam.
Kindly go to your chat box. You will be finding the link for the feedback forms and fill up the feedback forms.